Welcome to r/relationships, where Karen is demanding her boyfriend cooks for her. Am I the jerk for refusing to cook for my girlfriend? I'm a hobby cook, and I love experimenting in the kitchen. I'm originally from Europe. Mom's Greek and Dad's Austrian, so I grew up eating a lot of Mediterranean and Central European food. Over the years, I've expanded my horizons. I've worked at a Korean restaurant where the owners taught me some awesome recipes, and I'm always checking out cooking sites or flipping through my massive collection of cookbooks. I love trying new ingredients, bold flavors, and interesting techniques. Spicy, sweet, sour, savory, you name it. My girlfriend, on the other hand, has a much simpler palate. She sticks to local food or fast food, which I'm totally fine with. The issue is that she likes me to cook for her, and for a while I did. But she's so picky and refuses to try anything new, so I ended up having to make really bland, basic meals that don't excite me. Cooking 2 different meals, one for her and one for me, isn't realistic because I work full-time. Recently, I started inviting some new friends over for dinner twice a month. Cooking for them gives me an excuse to try out new recipes, and they genuinely enjoy my food, which makes me happy. Of course, my girlfriend is usually there too, but she rarely eats more than a bite or two before ordering takeout. It's frustrating because everyone else appreciates the effort I put in, but she won't even try most of what I make. Eventually, I decided to stop cooking specifically for her. I figured I'd just make what I want, and if she didn't like it, she could sort out her own meals. Well, she's not happy about that. She's upset because she can't cook and doesn't like having to rely on takeout all the time. She's also tired of eating mac and cheese or frozen meals, which seem to be her fallback options. I tried meeting her halfway by making extra portions of whatever I was cooking, but she still wouldn't eat it unless it was something super basic like burgers. Just the other day, I made a spicy stir-fry and she refused to try it. I ended up with a lot of leftovers, which thankfully my neighbor was happy to take off my hands. At this point, I'm done compromising. I don't understand why she's mad when she won't eat my cooking anyway, unless it's tailored to her tastes. She keeps saying I should make meals we both enjoy, but the problem is, her idea of enjoyable is so narrow. She won't try anything new, and I'm not willing to give up experimenting in the kitchen just to accommodate her picky eating. Am I the bad guy here? I feel like I've tried to find a middle ground, but she's just impossible to please when it comes to food. Not the jerk. I don't want to be the red flag guy, but food and your relationship to it is a relatively important part of a relationship. It seems like you have fundamentally different attitudes as to your diets. That's fine in and of itself, but her entitlement is super crappy. You've tried to compromise and she hasn't. She can eat what you make something herself, buy food for herself, etc. But chaining you to a world of chicken nuggets and plain hamburgers is not a reasonable option. OP. That's what I'm saying. I'm not the type to complain about eating takeout every so often or making fried chicken, burgers, etc. I enjoy it sometimes, but she has such a specific bracket of stuff she likes that it's impossible for me to make anything if I take her taste into account. Like, I made her a burger with blue cheese in the meat once. She thought it was disgusting, so I can't even experiment with the stuff she does like. Not the jerk. What are you supposed to do? Only eat food that you don't like? If she wants home-cooked meals and doesn't like what you want to make, she needs to cook for herself. Maybe every once in a while cook something you both enjoy, but it shouldn't be every night. Update. About a week after my original post, my girlfriend and I had a pretty big argument. It was mostly about her behavior towards me, which, as a lot of you pointed out, was kind of disrespectful. What triggered it was one of my dinner parties. Like usual, she tried one tiny element of the dish, pushed it aside, and didn't eat anything else. It was embarrassing because all my friends noticed, but this time someone actually said something. Cleo, the wife of my best friend, called her out for being rude. Then a few other people chimed in too. That completely killed the vibe of the night. My girlfriend was furious, and later that evening, it all blew up into a huge fight. We were both pretty nasty to each other. She was defensive, and I was frustrated and hurt. Afterward, we didn't really talk for 3 days. Things felt super tense, and I honestly wasn't sure how we were going to move forward. But then she talked to her mom, who apparently told her she had been acting badly too. That seemed to be the wake-up call she needed because she apologized. We ended up having a long conversation and came up with some compromises to try and fix things. 1. She agreed to start cooking with me. 2. She promised to at least try new dishes instead of just dismissing them outright. 3. If she didn't want to eat something at a dinner party, she would just not join instead of acting uninterested and snobby in front of everyone. And 4. We agreed she'd eat healthier. I told her her current diet was going to catch up with her eventually, and that one hit home. Over the past 5 weeks or so, there have been some big changes. She slowly started trying new foods, and she's actually liked quite a few things. She's still super cautious, but there's definitely progress. Cooking together has been surprisingly fun too. even though she's absolutely terrible at it. Like, I'm not kidding. She almost burned rice the other day. But hey, everyone starts somewhere, right? It's been nice seeing her open up to new flavors and healthier eating. I'm hoping that, with time, this whole food issue will stop being a problem altogether. Oh, and thanks to everyone who gave me advice or shared recipes. Trying new ideas has been great, and some of the suggestions were absolute winners. Am I the jerk for visiting my ex in jail against the wishes of my girlfriend? I've been living with my girlfriend, Molly, for 2 years now. I love her deeply, and since we're both financially stable, we've started talking about taking the next big step and starting a family together. Things have been great between us, so I wasn't expecting anything to shake things up. But then my ex, Amy, came back into the picture in a way that I never anticipated. Amy and I broke up over 4 years ago. She worked in finance and was doing very well for herself. Honestly, I thought she was set for life. But then she got involved in some shady, illegal scheme to make easy money, and it all came crashing down. Everyone involved ended up being charged and sentenced, including Amy. I didn't know much about it at the time since we hadn't been in contact, but when I heard she was in jail, I felt a bit sad for her. Still, it had been years since we broke up, so I had no reason to reach out. That is, until I got a letter from her a few weeks ago. The letter caught me off guard. Amy explained that her family and friends had completely abandoned her after her conviction. She was writing to ask if I could keep in touch with her as a friend, just so she'd have someone to talk to on the outside. She made it clear she wasn't expecting anything beyond friendship, just a little human connection. I thought about it for a while and eventually decided to visit her. I mean, if someone's hit rock bottom, what's the harm in being a bit of support? Amy's situation is honestly heartbreaking. Her family, who are these upper-class, reputation-obsessed types, cut her off the moment she was sentenced. They don't want anything to do with their criminal daughter. Most of her friends are from our old professional circle, and they've all dropped her too. She literally has no one but me. When I saw her for the first time in years, she completely broke down. I'm the only person who's ever visited her. She hugged me and cried for what felt like forever, and I just stood there, unsure of what to say. It's clear she's not handling prison life well at all. Amy's incredibly smart. She has a degree in mathematics and a ton of financial certifications, but the only programs they're offering her are ridiculously basic, like beginner-level life skills courses. She's bored out of her mind and feels like her intelligence is being wasted. On top of that, she has to wear clothes that are either too big or too small, and have been worn by who knows how many other people. From what she told me, it sounds like she's being bullied too. She admitted that some of the other women don't like her because they think she acts snobby and spoiled. I can see why they'd feel that way. Amy always had a bit of an air about her, but I also know she's not a bad person at heart. She's just struggling to fit in. After the visit, she thanked me over and over for coming. She said I gave her something to look forward to and begged me to visit again. I told her I'd try to come once a month, and she hugged me like I was her lifeline. It felt good to know I'd made her day a little brighter. But when I got home and told Molly about things got tense. Molly knew beforehand that I was going to visit Amy, and she was fine with it. But once I got back and she heard how the visit went, she admitted she wasn't comfortable with it anymore. She said it wasn't just about me visiting someone in need, it was the fact that it was my ex. She kept asking if I still had feelings for Amy, which I absolutely don't. But no matter how much I reassured her, it didn't seem to help. She said it felt like I was going out of my way for someone who used to be a big part of my life, and that scared her. We ended up arguing about it. Molly said she wouldn't feel happy unless I stopped seeing Amy, but I told her I couldn't do that. Amy has no one else. Letting her sit in that awful place, completely alone, feels cruel. I don't see why being a friend to someone who's clearly at their lowest should be such a big issue. But now I'm stuck between trying to support Amy and keeping Molly happy, and I don't know what to do. No jerks here. I think monthly visits are excessive though, and invite your girlfriend so she can see firsthand that it's just a friend and nothing to be jealous of. Info. You say Amy doesn't belong in there at all. What makes you think that? She obviously does belong in there by a judge and probably jury opinion. Is this a sign you have her on some sort of pedestal? If she asked you to do her a little favor, would you consider it? Like transfer some money from one of her accounts to another? Update 1 month later. Molly and I finally sat down to have a real conversation about everything. I made an effort to explain where I was coming from, and she took the time to share her worries. I could see why she felt uneasy about me reconnecting with my ex, and she understood why I couldn't just leave Amy in that situation without any support. It was one of those conversations where neither of us left feeling completely great, but at least we understood each other better. I ended up taking advice from a comment in my original post and asked Molly if she'd come along with me to visit Amy. At first, she wasn't too keen on the idea. She said it would feel weird and wasn't sure if it would make things better or worse. But after some back and forth, she eventually agreed to give it a shot. I promised her that if it made her uncomfortable, we could leave any time, and I wouldn't pressure her to come again. When we got to the prison, it was pretty awkward at first. Molly didn't know what to say, and Amy seemed unsure of how to act around her. I could tell both of them were trying though, and after a little while, the tension started to ease. They ended up chatting, and to my surprise, they actually got along pretty well. Amy was so grateful to have someone else there that she wasn't going to be anything but polite, and Molly isn't the type to be rude, even when she's feeling awkward. Amy opened up about what life in there has been like. The prison is in terrible shape. She's in a cell on the top floor where the window is cracked, so it's freezing cold at night. They only give her a thin blanket, and she has to sleep fully dressed just to avoid shivering all night. The place is overcrowded, so she shares her tiny cell with another woman who isn't exactly friendly. Her cellmate apparently runs the show in there, hogging the TV and deciding when the lights go out. Amy has to tiptoe around her to avoid conflict, which sounds exhausting. The daily life isn't much better. The food is awful, the clothes are worn out and don't fit, and the only activities they offer her are basic courses. Amy has a degree in mathematics and advanced financial certifications, so being stuck in these entry-level classes is driving her nuts. But the alternative is sitting in her cell, staring at the walls, and going out of her mind with boredom. As Amy talked, she started tearing up, but she kept trying to hide it. She said if the other inmates see her crying, they'll think she's weak, and that could make things worse for her. She managed to avoid any serious trouble, but apparently some of the other women mock her posh accent and treat her like she doesn't belong. On top of that, her family still hasn't reached out to her. Not her parents, not her old friends, no one. It's like they've completely erased her from their lives. Molly was amazing during all of this. She hugged Amy while she cried, told her it was okay to feel upset, and reassured her that she wasn't alone anymore. I was honestly blown away by how kind and supportive she was. It was the last thing I expected, but I couldn't have been prouder of her. Molly even cracked a few jokes to lighten the mood, and the two of them started chatting about lighter topics, like fashion. Amy promised to give Molly some of her designer clothes as a thank you when she gets out, which made both of them laugh. By the time we said goodbye, the mood was completely different. Molly hugged Amy again and promised we'd come back to see her. On the way home, Molly admitted that she still felt a little weird about the whole thing, mostly because Amy is my ex, but she also said she could see how much Amy needs people in her corner. She told me she thinks visiting Amy is the right thing to do and that she's okay with us continuing to see her together. Am I the jerk for leaving a party because my date refused to get me water? I had been seeing a guy I met through mutual friends. We had some good one-on-one times, and when he invited me to hang out with his friends, I always tried to contribute. I never showed up empty-handed, whether it was a bottle of wine or a snack, and I'd offer to grab drinks or help out where I could. I thought I was being a good guest and making a positive impression. One night, he invited me to a holiday theme party with his friends. The plan was to meet there and then hang out afterward. I spent the day cleaning my condo and making a batch of mulled wine to bring. It took me more time and effort than I expected, but I wanted to do something nice. At the party, I poured drinks for people and joined in the conversations. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, and the vibe was good. Later in the evening, I was sitting on the couch with my date on one side and a bunch of people on the other. I was blocked in and didn't feel like squeezing past a crowd of people I didn't really know just to get a drink. I turned to him and asked if he could grab me a glass of water. He immediately shook his head. I was caught off guard and said, "Huh?" thinking maybe he misheard me. But then he said, "No, I was just up, and you could have asked before I sat down again." That totally threw me off. To me, getting a glass of water for someone is such a simple, thoughtful thing to do, especially for someone you're dating. It's not a huge ask, but his reaction made me feel like I had done something wrong. I was already tired from the long day and making the wine, and that moment just left me drained. The party was starting to wind down anyway, so I decided to call it a night. I said my goodbyes and ordered a ride. My date walked me out, saying he felt hurt that I was leaving. I explained I was exhausted and needed to recharge, but told him he could come over after the party if he wanted. As we were walking, I mentioned how surprised I was that he wouldn't grab me water. I tried to keep it lighthearted, but he responded, "Wow, that really upset you, huh? I have to be guarded about these things, you know?" That made no sense to me, but I was too tired to unpack it at the time. After I got home, we texted a bit, but he seemed more focused on being annoyed that I left the party than actually hearing why I was feeling so drained. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. His texts were short and dismissive, so I told him I'd let him decompress and we could talk later. 2 days passed before I called him again to clear the air. He said he'd call me back that evening, but then 3 more days went by without a word. When he finally messaged me, he said, "I'm not dodging you, I've just been busy." By that point, I was pretty much over it. I had made multiple attempts to talk, and he wasn't putting in any effort. A month later, we finally sat down to have an actual conversation. He told me that getting me water at the party felt subservient, and that I needed to earn that kind of effort by being in the trenches with him. He also said I didn't understand how busy his life was. For context, I work multiple jobs and still made time to bring homemade wine to his friend's party, so that argument felt pretty weak. I told him calmly that getting water isn't about being subservient, it's just a small act of care. It's the kind of thing people do for each other without keeping score. Looking back, I feel like his reaction to such a small request, combined with how he handled the situation afterward, showed some deeper issues. It didn't feel like he respected my time or effort, and he definitely wasn't willing to meet me halfway. So, am I wrong here, or is he a jerk? I appreciate your thoughts. Not the jerk, and his use of the word subservient and his need to have his ego stroked for being so busy makes me wonder if he's the worst kind of jerk. Just let him go. Not worth it. You're not the jerk for leaving the party, but you should really think about why you kept pursuing this person for weeks afterwards when they had clearly either lost interest completely or was playing some emotionally manipulative game with you by making you feel like you were in the wrong. Don't fall for it. They're not worth a single moment more of your time. You both are behaving like teenagers, but let's just imagine his perspective for a moment. I sat down next to my girlfriend at the party tonight, and she immediately demanded I get her water. When I said I didn't want to, she stormed out of the party, and now she's breaking up with me. I guess she was really thirsty. Like, get a grip, people. Go ahead and downvote if you want. Karen demands I produce YouTube videos for her. On Christmas Eve, my aunt dropped a holiday bomb on me, asking if I could script, film, and edit a video series about her family being the real Santa Claus family, with her husband taking on the role of Santa's son. No mention of payment, she just dove right into it. I pointed out that Hallmark had already done this several times, and besides, none of us had the time or budget for such a festive film project. I stressed that claiming our family as the real Santa crew would likely lead to ridicule, and I had zero interest in being the star of that show. Cue the holiday drama meltdown. She went ballistic, accusing me of denying her family's authenticity. She even threw in a line about letting me rot with my mother. It was confusing and a hurtful turn of events, leaving me alone in my house, shedding tears, trying to figure out how we got from point A to this. My aunt continued spewing nonsense at me, pushing me to my limit. When I said I needed a break until she could muster a proper apology, she insisted she already apologized. Yet, all she managed was a vague message in a family group chat that I rarely even look at, saying, "I'm sorry to everyone about how I've been acting. I'll do better." Not an apology in my book, more like the coward's way out. I took matters into my own hands, and I aired the family grievances on Facebook, explaining what went down, how it left me feeling, and officially announcing that I was cutting her out of my life. I had to broadcast the saga to the rest of the family because they were pushing me to reconcile without knowing the full deck of holiday cards. I wasn't about to play messenger pigeon, explaining the drama one by one. And just when I thought I had unwrapped all the layers of this Christmas chaos, the entitlement bomb exploded. I initially believed her behavior was the result of a misunderstanding, but no, it turns out she intentionally stirred the pot. In a public comment visible to all, she dropped the bomb. I supposedly started it because I refused to help her write a book about our family. Plot twist, I didn't even know she wanted a book. She made it sound like a video series was the grand plan. So there you have it. My holiday season is now a mix of festive drama and unexpected plot twists. 'Tis the season for family feuds that make Hallmark movies look like a walk in the park. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that either his pregnant girlfriend stops whining or he moves out? I, 28 male, live in an apartment that I got from my uncle. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, and since I don't need the extra space, I rented the room out. My roommate, male 24, has been living with me for a little over a year and a half. He's been dating his girlfriend, who's 24, for like 5 or so years. She lives in another house and has 4 roommates herself. As her house is more crowded, my roommate asked me if it was okay if she stayed over sometimes. I agreed since I don't really have a problem with it at all, as long as they're respectful. We haven't had any major issues until now. When his girlfriend got pregnant, he told me, and I was like, "Oh, great, congratulations." He did try to bring up a conversation to see if I would allow her to move in with us, but I said no. I work from home most of the time. I don't want to deal with a third person or a newborn in the future. He asked me if she could still come by and stay some nights as before, and I said that was fine. She's like 4 or so months along in her pregnancy. Well, these last 3 months, she's grown to be very annoying whenever she's staying over. What I mean is that I get woken up in the middle of the night and early morning too many times because she's running to the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I don't use that bathroom. I have my own connected to my room. But my guests sometimes use it, and they have said that it's dirty and messy. She's staying over a lot more nights than she used to before. And the biggest problem is that she's developed really bad nausea. Even now, she's still having morning sickness, which I believe they must have stopped already. We have many issues regarding food because my roommate and her asked me to stop having certain foods that make her sick. I told her that this is not her house. She has no right to come and expect me to change my diet because of her. They took that very badly. I continued my life as normal. She always complains and runs to the bathroom when I cook. There have been a couple of times when she's actually thrown up on the floor too, which is disgusting. I'm sick of it, to be honest. So I told my roommate that either she stops coming over, she stops complaining, or he moves out. I would give him a month or two if he needs it to find somewhere else to live, but I'm tired of having his girlfriend over. She's annoying me. He, of course, got very upset and said that she wouldn't annoy me so much if I were more understanding of her condition. Said that they're not in a comfortable position to move, that she's sick and needs his support and all of that. Some of my friends and coworkers and family are on my side, but others are saying that I'm behaving like a total jerk and I could easily change my diet for a couple of months. Am I the jerk? Edit. Y'all are right. I need to evict him. It sucks because even though we're not friends, he was a good roommate and all, but it's too risky to have him here when the baby is born. Hopefully they can find somewhere else to live. I'll try to have the conversation with him today. Consult a lawyer. There are definitely protections in place regarding housing discrimination for having a kid. It's his kid. This can be the baby's primary residence, even if she doesn't move in. Find out your rights sooner rather than later regarding not re-signing his lease or whatever, and it would be easier before the baby. OP. Actually, one of my colleagues also told me this, so I'm trying to find a lawyer already for all of the legal information I might need. I'm mostly struggling with the moral side of this whole issue. Not the jerk. She doesn't live there, and you've made it clear you don't want an infant in the house since you work from home. While I do agree you might be a little more accommodating while she's there, your roommate and his girlfriend need to move into their own space to prepare for the baby. They made a choice to get pregnant and stay pregnant, so they need to adult up and prepare for bringing another life into this world that they will need to support. I was going to say everyone sucks here until she threw up on the floor multiple times. That's nasty. While I know you can't control morning sickness, she should be able to make it to a bathroom or a sink or the trash can. Not the jerk, but you'd better evict him now. If you wait until the baby is born, what if he elects to have the kid live with him? You can't forbid that without violating fair housing laws. Evict him now so it's not an issue. Or roll the dice and take your chances, but then be ready to take what's coming to you. I told my wife that she couldn't do it without me. Turns out she can. I made one stupid, selfish comment to my wife a week or so ago, and now my life is in disarray. My wife is in some crisis. Her work is closed and she's being paid, but she's home with our kids now, including one 3-year-old. She gets breaks on Monday and Friday with childcare. We went into having kids knowing she wanted to be a working mother, so this has been an adjustment to say the least. On to the original fight. She spent a long day with our kids and the neighbor's kids, and when I came home from work and she asked for a break, I didn't respond well. I made excuses and didn't offer help, and for the first time in years, my wife lost her temper and cursed at me. Like an idiot, I dug in and thought I was right. I admit we both said some unkind things, but after Reddit humbled me and she made me sit down and write a list of things I did for the family that day and compared it with her longer list, I apologized. She accepted and I figured things would go back to normal. They haven't. My wife used to include me in parenting our kids. I did dance pickup most weeks and bedtime was split. I did baths, made dinner, all that stuff. Since our fight, my wife hasn't asked me for any help with the kids. The first morning I woke up on what was supposed to be my morning with the kids. I figured she was just being nice or trying to prove a point, but it keeps happening. She didn't even send them down to say goodnight last night. Normally, my wife does this silly game where she sends my son to ask me to read 5 books, and then we would negotiate down to 1 or 2 and race upstairs. Last night, I heard her racing him and came up to find her doing bedtime yet again. The kids haven't even noticed. It's like she's replacing me. When we were fighting, I said something really dumb that's living inside me and festering. My wife was being nasty and said, "You wouldn't see the kids a quarter as much as you do if I didn't arrange it and I'm done managing you." I defended myself. I'm not an absent parent, and said something along the lines of, "I'd like to see how long you can manage without me." Consider my foot officially in my mouth. She started running again. She's cooking really healthy and often. Every night I come home to my perfectly happy Stepford wife doing it all without me, and I feel empty inside. How do I fix this? I don't even know where to begin. At this point, I want to beg her to go back to how things were. This wasn't what we agreed on. Edit. Okay guys, I get it. I'm a jerk. I'm going to make this right. And thank you to the handful of people that reached out with advice. Believe it or not, I do want to be a good father and husband. I royally messed up, and I see that, and I'm fully admitting it. This is going to be my only edit, and then I'm going to get off my phone for a while and focus on my family. My wife had dinner cooked when I got home. Everything is fine between us, so there wasn't any tension. After we cleaned up, I went upstairs and ran my wife a bath, put Taylor Swift on her Alexa, and lit a few candles. I told her to go relax upstairs for the night. She was surprised, but smiled and went on her way. I'm currently handling bath time. People mentioned love bombing, etc., but I'm just trying anything I can to show her I do appreciate and love her and our family, and I want to be a present father. I'm going to do bedtime tonight and probably all next week. I'll tell her she does so much during the day and deserves the break because it's the truth. I get that I come off as a jerk. I grew up in a not great situation and didn't have the best role models growing up. I'm terrified of my kids not having enough, and I overcompensate by working too much. This new job came with a big pay increase, but the hours are longer and I feel like I can never keep up. I reached out to a few recruiters tonight. I used to love my job and was always home by 4:30, even if it means taking the lost income. I'm thinking about going back. Relationships are hard and humans aren't perfect. For all the people telling me my kids don't love me and I'm a waste of space, I don't know guys. Just remember I'm an actual person. That crap is rough. Anyways, that's all I have for you folks. Stop waiting for your wife to ask for help with your kids. If you're an active parent, you shouldn't need to be asked to help. It's a combined responsibility. Also, talk to your wife. She's rightly upset because you're treating the kids as her responsibility that you help when asked. Be proactive. Stop taking her for granted. Find out what you need to do to make amends. You absolutely are an absent parent if the only time you do things is when she asks or when she actively includes you. It's not her job to tell you when and how to be a parent. If you were an active parent and spouse, you wouldn't be posting this on Reddit. I take it you still haven't apologized. So to summarize, your wife is done telling you what you need to do, so you turn to Reddit to tell you what to do. Your wife deserves better. She deserves a husband that doesn't want to be told what to do, how to be a partner. She deserves a husband that doesn't wait to be told what to do, how to be a partner, how to spend time with the kids. You wrote lists of what each person does. You've noticed with your own eyes the stuff she has done without you. Perfect. Take her list and do all of those activities before she can. If she starts doing something on the list, look her in the eye and tell her that you'll do it. She deserves to be treated like a partner, and you appreciate all the other times she has done it without being told thank you. You also need to continue apologizing. My wife told her friend she doesn't love me more than her ex and that I was her second option. I'm 33, male. My wife, Sarah, who's 32, is the love of my life. She's a woman of charm, grace, beauty, and accomplishment. I met her through mutual friends 6 years ago who thought that we'd be a good fit. At first, Sarah didn't seem too impressed with me, but as we chatted, she warmed up to me, and we even exchanged numbers. We went on a date and had an amazing time that turned into another date, which turned into us dating and then eventually getting married. Sarah is such a warm, caring person who helped me through some tough times and was always there to pick me up, dust me off, pat me on the back, and help me forward. I thought she would be the woman I'd raise a family with and grow old together with, but maybe this isn't the case. Last week, I was clearing our driveway from snow when I came back in the house to go to the restroom, and I overheard a phone conversation between Sarah and a friend of hers. Our house is very echoey, and I don't think she realized I was in the house because she thought I was still clearing the driveway. Recently, her friend broke up with her long-term boyfriend because she didn't feel like they were a long-term match. That's when Sarah said, unprompted, and I quote because it was burned into my brain, "I mean, it's a good thing you did this now. You don't want to end up with your second or third option like I did." I swear I thought she was joking, but from the tone of her voice, I could tell she wasn't. Something told me to pull out my phone and record, so I did. The conversation continued with her saying, "He's not the love of my life, but I do love him." And I guess the worst part that she said, "If Paul," her ex, "wasn't so terrified of marriage, I'd probably still be with him." She did conclude by saying that she really did love me, but it wasn't head over heels love, and that she thought I was a great husband and would be a good father someday. I have this all on recording. I was confused and flustered in that moment and forgot I had to go to the restroom, so I went back outside to continue clearing the driveway. Inside, I was destroyed. I felt like a zombie just going through the motions. When I finished up, I went back inside and I finally looked at her and I just felt empty. She smiled at me, but I didn't give her one back. She asked me what was wrong, so I just told her I felt sick. That night, I just stuck to myself and didn't say much. The next day, over some beers, I asked my best friends in the world, who are 33 and 34, what they thought about the recording, and they immediately said to divorce. My friend Ashley, 34 female, said, "If a woman admits that she doesn't love you more than her ex, there's nothing more to say." A day later, I brought this to my sister and parents, who took the opposite approach. They said I should listen to her words carefully and that she said she does love me, that she chose to commit to me, and that even though I'm not her soulmate, I shouldn't take commitment and an admission of love so lightly. I've been faking being okay at home, and I don't think I can keep this act up much longer. She's been extremely suspicious since that day and constantly asks me if anything is wrong. I have no idea what to do, but I know I need to make a decision soon. Can you guys see anything here that I can't? Should I give Sarah a chance? Do you think she really loves me? You need to sit her down and say, "Sarah, I heard you on the phone the other day. I came in from clearing the driveway and I couldn't help but overhear you tell your friend that I wasn't your first choice and I'm not the love of your life and that you'd still be with Paul if he wasn't shy of marriage." And that's it. That's all you say. You don't mention the recording. You let her do all of the talking and then you head out somewhere for a few hours and think about whether her explanation makes any sense to you. Then you can think about what comes next. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.